My name is Adeline Spencer. I'm 25 years old. Last month, my grandmother gave me a sealed envelope that shattered everything I thought I knew about my family. Growing up, my parents always said I was adopted in spirit. That was their excuse for why my brother got birthday parties while I got chores, why he got a car while I got nothing, why he was praised and I was ignored. For 25 years, I believed them. I believed I wasn't really theirs. On my birthday last month, when my family decided to turn the day into a party for my brother's MBA graduation, my grandmother pulled me aside. She slipped an envelope into my hands and whispered, "Don't open this at home." I sat in my car for an hour before opening it. When I read the first line, I whispered, "No way." Before I tell you what was inside, please like and subscribe if this story speaks to you. You can also share your location and time in the comments side. Love to know where you're listening from. Now, let me take you back to where it all started. The first time my father told me I wasn't really his. I grew up in a large colonial house in suburban Connecticut, 4 bedrooms, white shutters, a wraparound porch, something straight out of a magazine. My grandmother bought the house for my parents as a wedding gift. It looked like old money, even though we didn't really have much. There's a family photo in the living room. I'm in it, but barely. I'm standing at the edge, half a step behind everyone else. Like I almost didn't belong. The first time I heard the words adopted in spirit, I was 8 years old. It was a Tuesday. My birthday had been the Saturday before, but we didn't celebrate it. My brother Derek had a soccer tournament, and Dad said his game mattered more. My birthday was just a day. Mom said we'd celebrate later. We never did. That Tuesday at dinner, I asked, "Why does Derek get the bigger bedroom?" Dad didn't even look at me. "Because Derek is different, Adeline. You're not really like us. You're adopted in spirit. We kept you. But that doesn't mean you deserve the same things." I didn't understand what that meant. I just knew it hurt. Mom patted my hand and said, "Your father loves you in his own way." I later learned that his own way meant silence. It meant chores. It meant being invisible. And for the next 17 years, I believed I didn't truly belong. This is what adopted in spirit looked like. For Derek's 16th birthday, Dad bought him a red Jeep Wrangler. They threw a big party with a DJ and an expensive cake. For my 16th birthday, we had a quiet dinner at home, a cheap store cake with my name spelled wrong. Dad didn't even show up because of work. I blew out the candles alone. When Derek went to college, both parents helped him move. They took time off work and cried at the airport. When I left for college, Mom gave me a bus ticket and said, "You'll be fine. Derek needs the car." I was fine because I had no choice. Derek got a Rolex at graduation. For my son, Dad said proudly, "I got a $50 Amazon gift card." No speech. No pride. The only person who never forgot me was my grandmother. Every year, she sent a lavender card with the same message. "Remember who you are. The truth always comes out." I didn't understand it then. When tuition bills arrived, Dad said, "Real family comes first." So I worked 2 jobs, graduated with debt, and earned my accounting degree on my own. Derek graduated debt-free, with gifts, trips, and support. At home I cleaned. I cooked. I earned my place while Derek played video games. When decisions were made, I was left out. "This is for blood relatives," Dad would say. I moved out at 22. My tiny apartment wasn't fancy, but it was mine. One day a neighbor mentioned that my grandmother bought the house. Mom brushed it off too quickly. And something felt wrong. Then came last month. I was working when Mom texted, "Derek's MBA graduation this Saturday. Don't be late." No mention of my birthday. Then Grandma called. "I need you to come home." She said, "I've been protecting something for you since the day you were born." That's when I knew everything was about to change. When I arrived, Derek's BMW sat in the driveway. A huge banner praised his success. Nothing mentioned me. Inside, Mom handed me a list of chores. "Make sure everything is perfect." Derek was upstairs resting. Then I saw it, a lavender birthday card from Grandma, already opened and tossed aside. By the time guests arrived, the backyard looked like a luxury event. Dad gave a speech about his son and his legacy. Not a word about me. When someone mentioned my birthday, Dad laughed. "Oh, we don't count that," he said. "She's different." And in that moment, I knew the envelope Grandma gave me held the truth. They never wanted me to know. Asterisk. The words felt like a slap. Aunt Linda's smile froze. She leaned toward Uncle Robert and whispered something. I caught part of it. "Poor girl, spiritually adopted. Whatever that means." Across the yard, Grandma Eleanor sat alone in a wicker chair. Sunlight glinted off her silver hair. Her eyes missed nothing. She was watching everything quiet.com. Waiting. When our eyes met, she gave me a small nod. Just wait. That nod said it all. Dad wasn't finished. He tapped his glass again, clearly enjoying the attention. Now I'd like to share some exciting news about our family's future. He wrapped an arm around Derek. As most of you know, Eleanor, my wonderful mother-in-law, owns this beautiful home. When she eventually passes, God bless her, we plan to sell the house and use the money to fund Derek's first business. Derek nodded like it was already settled. Guests murmured approval. Something inside me broke. Excuse me, I said. My voice came out smaller than I wanted. What about me? Dad didn't even look at me. You're an adult, Adeline. You've always managed on your own. And besides, he paused, you're not really family in the traditional sense. The silence was painful. Aunt Linda looked shocked. Uncle Robert stared at the ground. A few guests shifted uncomfortably. I stood there without a drink apparently. They'd run out before getting to me. The weight of 25 years crashed down all at once. Then I heard tap, tap. The sound of a cane on stone. Grandma Eleanor stood up. She moved slowly, but with purpose. Guests stepped aside as she crossed the yard and stopped directly in front of my father. Her voice was calm, but sharp. Richard, she said, I think you've forgotten whose house you're standing in. The color drained from Dad's face. Grandma turned to me, her eyes warm but strong. Adeline, my darling, come with me. She linked her arm through mine and guided me away from the crowd. Her grip was surprisingly firm. We stopped near the rose bushes, far enough that no one could hear. She looked at me, eyes shining. Happy 25th birthday. Then she reached into her cardigan and pulled out an envelope, thick cream-colored, sealed with red wax. The seal showed balance scales and the letters C and A. Grandma, what is this? Your future, she said softly. But don't open it here. Go to your car, read it alone, then decide what you want to do. Dad's voice rang out behind us. Mother, what is this? Family matters should be discussed. This is between me and my granddaughter, Grandma said firmly. You've had 25 years to include her. You chose not to. Dad said nothing. I looked at the envelope. Cole and Associates. I recognized the name. Grandma had mentioned them years ago. Go, she said, squeezing my hand. I'll handle things here. I walked to my car in a daze. The party sounds faded away. The envelope felt heavy in my hands. I sat there for an hour before opening it. When I finally broke the wax seal, my hands were shaking. Inside were 3 documents. The first was my original birth certificate with the raised state seal. The second was a thick legal document titled Irrevocable Living Trust, dated 1999, the year I was born. The third was a handwritten letter on lavender paper, Grandma's handwriting. I read the letter first. My dearest Adeline, you were never adopted in spirit. Your father lied because he didn't know how to love a daughter. I read it again, and again. I grabbed the birth certificate. Mother, Margaret Louise Spencer. Father, Richard James Spencer. No adoption. No changes. I was their biological daughter. They had lied anyway. The letter continued. I saw how your father treated you from the beginning. I couldn't change him, but I could protect you. I turned to the trust document. It was clear. Sole beneficiary, Adeline Marie Spencer, established 3 days after my birth. Assets, the house at 47 Maple Grove Lane. Savings, totaling approximately $340,000. Control granted at age 25. The house my father planned to sell. It had never belonged to him. I sat there as the sun went down, realizing everything I'd believed was wrong. I wanted to go back inside and expose him in front of everyone. But that would have been his game. Instead, I called the number on the document. Cole and Associates. My name is Adeline Spencer. Mr. Cole has been expecting your call. When he confirmed everything was real, my heart raced. The trust is fully enforceable, he said. As of today, the assets are yours. They don't know. I said. No, he replied. And next Saturday, your grandmother has requested a formal reading of the estate. 1 week. I could wait. The calls started Monday. Dad wanted me back to prepare the house. Mom asked me to be a good daughter. Derek texted about paperwork. Mr. Cole warned me not to sign anything. They're trying to protect themselves, he said. They just don't know from what. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible anymore. Dad's email arrived on Thursday. The attachment was titled Spencer Family Asset Acknowledgement Form. I opened it out of curiosity. The message was clear. By signing, I would officially give up any claim to the Spencer or Mitchell family estates. No house, no money, nothing. They were trying to erase me before the truth came out. Too late. I already had everything. Friday night. There was a knock at my apartment door. It was Mom, holding a bouquet of flowers, chrysanthemums. My least favorite, Derek's favorite. Can I come in, honey? I stepped aside. She sat on my worn couch, her expensive handbag looking completely out of place in my tiny studio. Your father can be difficult, she said gently, but he means well. He just doesn't know how to show affection to a daughter. That was one way to put it. He loves you in his own way. She took my hand. And this situation with your grandmother's estate, signing that form would make things easier. It would keep the peace. Keep the peace. As if peace hadn't been kept on my back for 25 years. Mom, I asked quietly, do you even know what Grandma put in her estate? That doesn't matter, she said quickly. What matters is family. Families don't fight over money. She lowered her voice. Besides, your grandmother is old. Sometimes she gets confused. If she said anything strange to you at the party, doubt crept in. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Grandma. They will try to make you question yourself. Don't. I've waited 25 years for this. So have you. I looked at my mother, her perfect makeup, her practiced concern, the flowers she'd bought without thinking of me at all. I'm not signing anything, I said. Her expression slipped for just a second. Then she stood, picked up her bag, and left without another word. That night, I couldn't sleep. The trust papers lay on my nightstand, like proof in a courtroom. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my father's face, not angry, just dismissive. You're not really family. Those words had followed me my whole life. Every time I tried to speak up, they pushed me back into silence. But not tonight. I opened my closet and found a navy blue suit I'd bought months ago for a job interview. I was too scared to attend. The tag was still on. I'd paid for it myself, with money I earned. In a life I built without them, I cut off the tag and hung the suit on my door. Tomorrow, I wasn't going in as the forgotten daughter. I wasn't asking for approval. I wasn't begging for a place at their table. Tomorrow, I would sit at my own. For the first time in years, I slept peacefully. Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Cole and Associates occupied the top floor of a glass building overlooking the Connecticut River. Martin Cole greeted me with a firm handshake, silver hair, sharp eyes, calm confidence. Your grandmother speaks very highly of you, he said. She's not here. She asked me to act on her behalf. He slid a folder toward me. Before your family arrives, you should see this. Inside was the original deed to the house. Owner, Eleanor Ann Mitchell. No transfer, no sale. No deed in my parents' names. They've lived there for 30 years, Martin said, but they've never owned it. Legally, they're tenants. I barely had time to process that before the elevator dinged. They were here. Dad entered first, confident, polished. Mom followed, composed and quiet. Derek trailed behind, bored. They didn't look at me. Let's get this over with, Dad said, checking his Rolex. We all know what Eleanor wanted. Martin remained calm. Please, have a seat. They settled in, Dad at the head of the table. Of course. So, Dad said, leaning back, standard distribution, I assume. Derek pulled out his phone. If we sell the house soon, I can. Let's begin, I said quietly. Martin nodded. Very well. He began reading. The estate includes a residential property valued at approximately $1.2 million and financial assets totaling $340,000. Dad nodded, satisfied. However, Martin continued, these assets are not distributed through the will. The room went still. What? Dad snapped. Then how? They were placed into an irrevocable living trust in 1999. Mom gripped Dad's arm. Richard, Derek finally looked up. So who gets it? Martin turned to me. Miss Spencer, would you like to explain? I stood. The sole beneficiary of Grandma Eleanor's trust, I said calmly, is me. It was created the day I was born. Dad shot to his feet. That's impossible. Martin projected the trust onto the screen. Sole beneficiary. Adeline Marie Spencer. Mom gasped. Derek dropped his phone. This has to be fake, Dad said. She's not even really. I held up the second document. My birth certificate. It appeared on the screen. Mother, Margaret Louise Spencer. Father, Richard James Spencer. No adoption. No changes. For the record, Martin said, This has been verified by the state of Connecticut. Adeline Spencer is your biological daughter. The room went silent. For the first time in my life, they had nothing left to say and me. I stood there in my navy suit paid for with my own money holding documents that proved every story they had ever told me was a lie. I'm not going to ask you why, I said calmly. I stopped needing your approval a long time ago. Dad slammed his hand on the table. This is fraud, he shouted. I don't know what you've done, Adeline, but this manipulation, this light won't stand. His face turned red. Veins stood out along his temples. This was the man I remembered, the one who used anger to shut people down, the one who scared me into silence. But I wasn't 8 years old anymore. It's not manipulation, I said evenly. It's documentation, notarized, witnessed, and filed with the Connecticut probate court 25 years ago before you ever started telling me I wasn't really yours. Richard, Mom whispered. Stay out of this, Margaret, he snapped. Then he pointed at me. You think you've won something. That house belongs to this family. It belongs to Grandma, I said. And now it belongs to me. Derek finally spoke. Wait, so the house, the money Dad promised me for my business, none of that is ours. It never was. Martin stepped in. The property was never transferred to Mr. and Mrs. Spencer. They've been living there at Eleanor Mitchell's discretion. Without ownership. That's ridiculous, Dad said. We paid taxes. We maintained the house. Paying taxes doesn't grant ownership, Martin replied calmly. Legally, you've been tenants without a lease. The word tenants hit hard. Mom began to cry. Derek stared at the wall, and Dad looked at me with something I'd never seen before. Fear. For the record, Martin continued, Miss Spencer now has full legal control over all trust assets, including the house. You can't kick us out, Dad said, his voice cracking. We've lived there for 30 years. Actually, Martin said, she can. Derek jumped up. Dad, do something. Call a lawyer, we can fight this. On what grounds? Martin asked. The trust is airtight. Eleanor Mitchell planned for this. The fight drained out of my father. His shoulders sagged. Then his tone changed. Adeline, sweetheart. I flinched. He had never called me that. I know I wasn't perfect, he said, forcing a smile, but we're family. We can work this out. Family, I repeated. You spent 25 years telling me I wasn't family. You don't get to use that word now. Please, Mom said through tears. We can fix this. No, I said, closing my folder. You can't. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty for saying it. I'm not throwing you out today, I continued. You have 90 days to find a new place to live. That's more kindness than I was ever shown. 90 days, Dad snapped. After everything we've done for you. I almost laughed. You told me I was adopted in spirit so you could ignore me. You made me pay for my own education. You turned my birthday into my brother's celebration. What exactly have you done for me? He had no answer. Mom whispered, I love you. Then why didn't you protect me? I asked. Love without action isn't love. Derek tried one last time. Addie, this isn't fair. I was supposed to. You were supposed to benefit from a house that was never yours. I gathered my papers and turned to Martin. Thank you, Mr. Cole. I believe we're finished. We are, he said, standing. I'll prepare the transition documents. I walked out without looking back. 25 years of silence. 25 years of lies. It ended today. Just me, standing at the center finally where I belong. A year has passed since that day in Martin Cole's office. I'm sitting in the living room now, my living room. Watching the sunset spill through windows I used to stare out of as a child. The light is warm and golden. The kind that softens edges and makes the world feel gentle. A lot has changed. I was promoted to senior accountant, better pay. Better hours, a team that actually values my work. With the extra income, I bought a small rental property downtown. My first real investment outside the trust. Something I built for myself. Grandma Eleanor is still with us. Thank God. Her health isn't perfect, but her spirit is as stubborn as ever. We have tea every Sunday now, a tradition that began after the reading and never stopped. She tells me stories about my mother's childhood, about the woman Margaret used to be before everything hardened. I'm not sure what to do with those stories yet, but I'm keeping them. My parents haven't called, and I'm okay with that. Derek texts once in a while, safe, surface-level messages. How are you? Happy holidays. Saw your photo online. I reply politely, without inviting more. The door isn't locked. It's just not wide open. The person I was a year A Gotha girl who cleaned bathrooms at her own birthday party while her brother played video games feels like someone I barely recognize, not because I became someone new, but because I stopped apologizing for taking up space. I used to dream about the day my father would say he loved me. I imagined what it would feel like to finally be enough. I don't dream about that anymore. I know now that I always was enough. I just hadn't believed it yet. This isn't a revenge story. I didn't destroy my family. I didn't plan their downfall or take pleasure in their pain. I simply refused to keep playing a role that was never meant for me and claimed what was rightfully mine. The difference matters. If you're listening to this and you were the forgotten child, the one overlooked, undervalued, pushed to the edges of your own family, hear this. You don't owe loyalty to people who never gave you respect. You don't have to earn love that should have been given freely, and walking away isn't failure. Sometimes it's courage. I'm not telling you to cut off your family. That's a deeply personal choice. But I am telling you this. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors. And you get to decide who walks through them and how far. The greatest revenge, if it can even be called that, isn't making others suffer. It's building a life so full and grounded that their absence becomes a footnote, not the headline. You are not what they called you. You are not the role they assigned you. You are not the space they tried to shrink you into. You are who you decide to be. For 25 years, I waited for my father to see me to prove I deserved a seat at his table. Now I have my own table, with room only for people who actually want to be there. That's the only kind of family worth having. As for everyone else, Grandma Eleanor is doing better than her doctors expected. She moved into an assisted living facility near my house not because she had to, but because she chose to. I made sure she has the best care available. We still have tea every Sunday. She still beats me at Scrabble. Dad took a part-time consulting job. The man who once spoke endlessly about legacy and inheritance now works weekends to make rent. I don't feel joy about it, but I don't feel guilt either. Mom surprised me. 6 months after the move, she filed for divorce. She sent me a handwritten letter on plain white paper. No monogram, just the words, "I'm sorry I didn't protect you. I should have been braver." I haven't answered yet, but I kept it. Derek is trying. In his own way. He started therapy, his idea. This year, he sent me a birthday card with my name spelled correctly, and a message that felt real. I'm trying to understand. I hope you'll give me a chance to do better. I haven't decided what that means yet, but I'm thinking about it, and me. I'm here drinking tea from my grandmother's china, writing this for you. The Mother's Day card from Mom is still unopened on the table. Forgiveness isn't a switch. It's a door you might open someday. I'm just not ready yet, and that's okay. A therapist once helped me understand my father. She called it learned worthlessness, the belief, passed down through generations, that some people matter less. In his world, daughters were disposable. He learned it from his father, a man who dismissed his own daughter's death as insignificant. That belief shaped him. It shaped how he loved or couldn't. The lie about being adopted in spirit wasn't just cruelty, it was armor. A way to avoid facing his failure. Understanding that doesn't excuse what he did, but it helps me heal. Hurt people hurt people. My father was wounded long before I existed. Instead of healing, he passed the damage on. That's tragic, but it doesn't obligate me to suffer. I can hold compassion for the child he once was and still protect myself from the man he became. If someone in your life treats you with cruelty that feels personal and confusing, know this, it's not about you. It never was. Their inability to love speaks to their wounds, not your worth. You're not responsible for fixing damage you didn't cause. But you are responsible for protecting yourself from people who refuse to heal. That's not cruelty. That's survival. So this is my story. A 25-year lie. A sealed envelope. And a grandmother who loved me enough to plan decades ahead. If there's one thing I hope you take from it, let it be this. You are not what they called you. You are not the role they assigned you. You are who you decide to be. For 25 years, I believed I was adopted in spirit, a burden, an afterthought. It was all built on a lie. And like Grandma always said, the truth always surfaces. Sometimes it just takes time. If you stayed with me this far, thank you, truly. If you've ever been the forgotten child, how did you reclaim your place? I read every story you share. Until next time, take care of yourself. You deserve it, not because you earned it, not because someone allowed it, but because you exist. That's enough. It always was. Goodbye for now. And remember, your table is waiting. All you have to do is sit down.